I'm Nathan Pfahler, your host for Selling Indianapolis. Today we're going to look at two different historic downtown neighborhoods, one being the Old Northside, where we'll tour the Indiana Landmarks building and the Morris Butler House. And then we'll be coming back down to Fountain Square to check out a new development by ONYX and EAST. Marsh, give us a little overview of what Indiana Landmarks, why it was originally founded, and what it does throughout the state of Indiana.
Well, imagine being in the 1950s where there's a lot of change. The interstate highways are ripping through our cities. Urban renewal is funding the demolition of many historic neighborhoods. So in 1959, a group of business leaders here in Indianapolis, including Mr. Eli Lilly, familiar name to most people, gathered at the Columbia Club just to explore the idea of forming an organization that would save some historic places for the future generations, save some stuff for our kids. So it was a very intentional idea from the beginning. It wasn't a reaction against one particular building, but it was a forward-looking idea. Nothing happened for about 5 years.
Okay.
And Mr. Lilly was losing patience and wanted to get something done, so the board members located a property across the alley from this building called the Morris Butler House.
Okay.
It was our first project, and it was undertaken from 1965 until 1969. And it was opened with great acclaim. It was a 3-day celebration. Mr. Lilly was pleased, and he basically created the first part of our endowment at Indiana Landmarks. So he was so pleased he donated over $3 million in Eli Lilly stock. Now that's 1969. That's
significant.
Yeah, it'd be like 18 million today's dollars.
Wow.
So the organization, once we got to that point, we were off to a great start.
Okay.
And bit by bit, we expanded, starting with the historic neighborhoods here in Indianapolis, including this one, the Lockerbie Square area, and gradually built out into the state. And so now we have 9 regional offices in addition to our state headquarters. And that sets us apart from our peers anywhere in the country. We're the largest statewide nonprofit preservation organization in America.
Wow, I did not realize that.
Yeah, most people don't, but it's here in Indiana, thanks to the great early leadership and a lot of generosity, and I would say a effective vision through the years.
The Morris Butler House. What is significant about that structure, and why did Eli Lilly particularly feel like it needed to be saved?
It's a great example of Civil War era architecture. It's kind of a combination of Italianate and Second Empire style. It was not unlike some of the other historic homes here, say the James Whitcomb Riley home or the Benjamin Harrison home. These people are associated with well-known people. The approach here was to create a place to exhibit what Victorian life might have been like. Furnishings, there's very little that's original in that house. And for years it functioned as a historic house museum, and people would visit, school children, but gradually through time, the relevance of looking at Victorian furniture and those days are gone. Gotcha. So we use the building now for offices and events, and it's very nicely appointed, but it's not a museum anymore. But that was how we started.
We are now in the formal parlor of the Morris Butler House, and I'm here with Suzanne Stannis, who knows a lot about this building.
Right, as the formal parlor, you'll see a lot more decoration in this room compared to some of the other rooms across the hallway. So for example, we have crown molding that is all made out of plaster. A lot of people think it's wood, but it's molded plaster.
And then just from a general knowledge standpoint, where did a lot of these paintings come from? Do you have?
Yeah, the paintings as well as a lot of the decorations, including the chandeliers and some of the fireplace surrounds in the other rooms, were collected by some of the early members of Indiana Landmarks, including Eli Lilly, who helped to fund the restoration of this house back in the 1960s.
Can you speak a little bit about the original family that owned this home?
Yeah, it was about 1862, and a man named John Morris bought this land from Ovid Butler, who went on to found Butler University. The original location was just a few blocks east of here over on College Avenue. And so he worked with, we believe, the architect D.A. Bolin, who was very prominent in the city, built places like City Market, and constructed the house. The family lived here until about 1878, I think it was, and sadly, due to the financial panic of 1873, they went bankrupt. The house was used as a rental for just a short time. The second resident of the home was the Butler family, and that was Noble Butler. And he and his family lived here until his daughter, Florence, actually lived here until her death in 1958. And so they were really the second primary occupants of the house. And upon Florence's death, the house became an art museum for just a short period of time. Then Indiana Landmarks got involved, again with the help of Eli Lilly, and restored it. And we used it for a house museum for many years. And now it's used as office space and for small rentals.
So it was kind of a neat full circle thing that the land was bought from the Butler family, and then the Butler family then owned the house.
It was actually a different Butler, so they may have been related, but it would have been very remotely. So yeah, so it was Noble Chase Butler that purchased this house, and it was Ovid Butler that founded Butler University.
So as you're driving down the road, this house really stands out. What can you tell us about the architectural style of the home, and maybe any other cool facts about the exterior?
Yeah, it's a style that you don't commonly see in Indianapolis much anymore. It's called the Second Empire style. And as you're looking at the exterior of it, you'll notice it has a really distinct roof line, and that's what's called a mansard roof. So it's actually almost flat on the top, but not quite, and then the sides bow out. So what you don't see is that the third floor of this house, even though you're in technically the attic, you have no idea you're in the attic. It is a full third story, and it's got dormer windows. It also has a lot of elements of the Italianate style on it, and you'll see brackets around the eaves, as well as tall windows with arched openings.
So Annie, tell me a little bit about the types of events that are most suited for this home, and maybe one of the more cool events that have happened here in the past.
Sure. So we love doing weddings here because they're very small, they're very intimate. We house anything here from a 10-person meeting to about a 40-person wedding is our max. About 40 people in the house. We do a lot of teas, wedding showers, baby showers. We just love offering this space. Actually, we had a really great event here last fall where we used the grounds here as an internal group. So we get to work in this great, beautiful space, and sometimes we don't remember that we get this opportunity.
Yes.
So we had a cookout here. Marsh Davis brought his grill, we roasted s'mores in a bonfire, and we all just really got to enjoy this space out here. So we'd
cool.
love to host outdoor spaces.
Well, there's actually an event happening this evening at the Grand Hall. So what is that event?
Okay. That is a concert with the Indianapolis Symphony Orchestra. They're one of our friends and partners here. So we can do events in the Grand Hall up to 450 people. We host a lot of concerts in that space.
And that goes right along with how that auditorium was originally designed to actually be an amazing venue for not only speaking, but also musical performances,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. Talk a little bit about the Indiana Landmarks headquarters where we're sitting now, how it was originally used and what impact it had on the Old Northside, and then why it became, if I'm been told correctly, kind of your vision to help create this to be the headquarters, the new headquarters for Indiana Landmarks, right?
Yeah, it was built in 3 sections, beginning in 1891, where we're sitting.
Okay.
We call it the Grand Hall. The Methodists call it the Auditorium. But this was a thriving Methodist church. It was called the Central Avenue Methodist Episcopal Church, later the United Methodist Church.
Okay.
And through the early decades was a powerhouse. I think Methodist Hospital grew out of this congregation. But up until about World War II, it was thriving. But after that, a lot of the wealth and the people moved up north, and there was the big Methodist churches on the near north side and farther north really were people that were leaving this neighborhood to go into the more suburban areas. But a group was formed called the Old Centrum Foundation. They wanted to save this building, and they did noble work and raised enough money to keep it standing and functioning, but it wasn't enough. And by about 2007 or 8, they were out of business. In fact, their only asset was a loan from us. That they keep going. So, but we didn't take this on to save this building solely. Before that, we'd been pondering what would be great if we had a venue, an impressive historic venue where we could convene lots of people. Okay. That predated the availability of this property. Okay. The one that made it happen was the cultivation of Bill and Gail Cook, famous for their restoration of the French Lick Springs, and even greater so the West Baden Springs. Yeah. The most spectacular restoration project we'll ever see, and there's nothing like it. Gail Cook had a thing for domes, and so we're sitting in this room with a big dome, and we thought, we would say, well, I think the Cooks would be interested in our little dome here in Indianapolis. Well, we cultivated them, and indeed they became interested, and interest led to a handshake in 2009 between Bill Cook and me, and he thought, oh, we can do this for a few $1 million. Well, they invested about $17 million out of a $24 million project, but a lot of the quality you see here would never have happened without Bill and Gail Cook. The decorative work, it was all the same team that did the West Baden Springs, the top quality decorative artists. I mean, look at the woodwork here that we're sitting in was half of it's new, half of it's, you can't tell the difference between the old and the new. Up in front of us is this glorious pipe organ that in itself was like $500,000. We couldn't have done that without Bill. So great partnership. It was the last project that he did in the last year of his life, and I think it really kept him going. It surpassed our expectations as not just a preservation project, but a place that's constantly in use. And today we have the Urban Land Institute filling up our building in the other hall. So it's weddings, cultural events, partnerships with musicians, actors. It's just been great.
So what can you tell us a little bit more about the West Baden project?
It was a long time coming, let's say, in terms of its success. I started with that project way back in the late 1980s when I took a job down in our southern office. There was an entire 6-story collapse of a portion of the building, which for a newbie like me was like, oh boy, what do we do now? The building was cherished by so many people, both people that live in Indiana as well as beyond, that knew its great history. We brought in structural engineers who helped to map out how the building should be restored. We worked with potential funders. One of the leading individuals who helped us acquire the building were the Habig family out of Jasper. And they gave us the funding to be able to acquire West Baden in the early 90s. We went through all sorts of iterations of what could it be used for. I think at one point Donald Trump was even looking at the building for a potential casino location. That was a very interesting event where he came into town, French Lick and West Baden. So anyway, ultimately it unfolded. We had a meeting with the Cooks to see if they would be interested in the property. They initially said they would contribute a 6-figure amount, which grew into hundreds of millions of dollars that they put into that building and French Lick, Springs Hotel, as well as the casino that they built there in the community. So what started out as a fairly small commitment grew into a really big vision and investment. And the economic development impacts were huge because you went from a vacant building to one that's created hundreds of jobs in the Springs Valley.
So that structure was unique from its very beginning days. And if I'm remembering some articles I've read, at some point in time it was considered like the 8th wonder of the world, right? Mm-hmm.
It had the largest dome in the world on the building. So it was definitely, from an engineering standpoint, an extremely significant structure, both in Indiana and globally. When people walk in, inevitably, their jaws drop, their mouths drop open when they look up at that dome and just can't imagine similar places, certainly in our state. So it's a real treat to get to go there. And now, you can go and stay and experience the place in ways that I never could when I first worked with it.
So it's one of my wife and I's favorite places to go visit. And the last time we stayed there was literally hours after the huge hailstorm came through. And when we got there, the beautiful obelisk roof was in tatters from these golf ball size hail that came through it, and it was quite sad, but now I understand that's all been taken care of and the atrium is open again and everybody can enjoy that.
Yeah, I hear not only did they restore the dome, and the glazing that would have been damaged in the hailstorm, but then also they gave the atrium space a makeover. So it's got new carpeting, furnishings. It really, I think, is a beautiful space for visitors to experience. We do maintain a gift shop there at the hotel and give tours of the building. So if people are interested in learning more about the history and getting an actual tour and understanding the restoration project we undertook there, that they can certainly check in at the gift shop.
So just to touch a little bit on the history of West Baden, it was built with the idea that the natural springs there had healing qualities to them, correct?
That is true, both there and I think still to some extent at French Lick today, that you could go and they had pools that were fed by the local hot springs, and they also, I think, they called it, I think, Pluto water at French Lick, that you could go and actually put a cup and partake the waters that way, and it would hopefully cure all ills. I think that was probably a stretch, but at least it was offered. So.
Yeah, it's such a cool, unique structure, and really something for all Hoosiers to see and to enjoy and to really take in as part of our overall history. I'm sure there are people that have been residents of Indianapolis their entire lives, and for one reason or another have not been to this building and may not even know why it's here and what benefit it is to the greater Indianapolis community right now. So I thank you, I thank the Cooks, I thank all of Indiana Landmarks for helping to preserve not only this structure, but would you say thousands of structures across Indiana?
Well, the question was asked, how many buildings have you saved?
Yeah.
You remember the old McDonald's, they used to put like 43 billion hamburgers.
Yes.
Somebody said, wait a minute, how can you prove that? So it just depends how you measure it. So I just say thousands and thousands, Because sometimes saving a building might be, establishing a local historic district that would protect a building.
Okay.
Now, is that saving it or I don't know, it's just how you measure it. So I just say we've saved a lot of places. And we've protected a lot of places too, which may not be the same degree, but I think it's been a pretty effective run.
Well, I always say that the best built properties are the ones that were built 100 years plus ago, because you just don't get the quality of craftsmanship unless you're dealing with the people that can redo a space like this, but in your standard architecture anymore, this isn't what we're seeing, and this has always resonated with my heart and soul. We're We're now in Fountain Square at the COLERE community by ONYX and EAST. I'm standing here with Denise Potter, one of the sales reps for ONYX and EAST.
So I have been with ONYX and EAST for 8 years. They started in 2015, I started in 2017. I am a licensed broker as well. I have been in the industry for about 25 years total.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you've got me beat just by a little bit, but not by much, but by a little bit.
So there's about 28 townhomes here, 6 single family, 2 duplexes. Most of the units have rooftops, which people love, 2-car attached garage, which people love as well, and we're really close to the downtown area. And then I get a lot of Lilly, Salesforce, Cummins, and IU workers here. Like, you know, I'm 5 minutes from work, that's awesome, you know?
Price point of these townhouses are what, between $350 and high $4s?
That is correct. So the 350 is probably gonna get you about 1,300 square feet. Okay. And then the 450 high 4s is probably gonna get you somewhere about 2,200 square feet.
You mentioned the rooftop.
Yes.
That is amazing. I mean, who doesn't want to have a rooftop deck to check out the entire skyline? And it's beautiful.
Yeah, that is definitely a selling point here. People love the concept. It's outdoor living space for them.
Yes.
So obviously you're in a townhome, so you don't get that backyard that people look for sometimes. So that rooftop gives them that outdoor living space that they like.
And if I'm remembering correctly, the Fulton has elevators.
They have elevators, which people love.
That's pretty cool, and that makes it more of a longer-term living solution.
That is correct. Yeah. That is correct.
Well, Denise, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us not only about the COLERE neighborhood, but the other neighborhoods that ONYX and EAST is currently developing. And a little fun side note, if you're in the Tampa area of Florida, there's ONYX and EAST there too. Thank you for joining me on the tour of these 2 iconic downtown Indianapolis neighborhoods, the Old Northside and Fountain Square. My name is Nathan Pfahler, and I'm your host of American Dream TV.
Shower.
Like, you could have a party in here if you wanted to.
Are you gonna take a shower right now?